tries.
He's debasing the dollar, the currency. This is the sacred basis of America. He's debased it horribly. He's a war criminal. I agree with you. He should be taken to The Hague and thrown in jail, without a question of a doubt.
Yes, crime against humanity.
He's a crime against humanity, or a crime against civilization, crime against finance. He's not a financier. He's a charlatan. He's a crook.
Christian
No,
Stokes.
no. Greenspan is an economist, not a top academic economist. He is, in fact, a Republican militant. He is an ideologue. He belongs to the school of objectivist.
He's a schmuck.
No. He needs a fair trial. Really, it's
He's
very
a
interesting.
putz.
Max Kaiser, I put this to you, that we may be going into the bust now, but can you forget all of those those successive quarters of growth? It was unparalleled in American history.
For every GDP dollar of growth, they generated $5 to $6 in debt. The growth was completely illusory. Just because you have Americans that weigh 300 or 400 pounds waddling down the mall, stuffing themselves like ducks on a foie gras farm, you can't equate that to growth. That's disgusting.
No, Greenspan says it is a historical crisis. It is true, but following the 1929 crack, there were presidential elections. Roosevelt won, then came the New Deal. And there were trials in the Democrat-controlled Congress, and the Wall Street bankers were put on trials and followed the regulation of the banking industry. Especially the banks were forbidden to go to Wall Street. And in fact, the Glass-Steagall Act was repealed 10 years ago under the influence of Greenspan.
That's right.
And this is a cause of the securitization, which is a basic cause of the market.
That's right.
So when you make the trial, you have a trial immediately.
So are we ready for another New Deal?
Certainly, there will be a New Deal. But another point, it's very interesting to compare the figures of central bankers. Since the independence of central banks, the monetarist era, which was opened 25 years ago, under the new ideas, especially Milton Friedman, the central bankers have become the key figures of our time. They are more powerful than heads of government. They have long-time mandate. Greenspan stayed 20 years in power as the Federal Reserve. Let's compare him to Jean-Claude Trichet. You have two different personalities. Very interesting to compare. Trichet, I think he has less...
At the European Central Bank?
Yes, he's a Governor General. No, the chairman. Governor General is too much.
Greenspan is really acting more like an investment banker on Wall Street than a guardian of the nation's wealth and the nation's currency. He's not really obeying his mandate to keep inflation in check and price stability in check. He's acting like an investment bank, stoking. He's the one who said to American people, you know, would take out variable rate mortgages, and he thought that was a good idea. Who is he acting, for the people or for the Bankers Association? He's not acting in the interest of the public, and I agree with you, war crimes are suitable, or crimes against humanity are suitable. And I really think that had they instead, after the 9/11 events, you know, instead of lowering rates to prove to the bad guys, to bin Laden, that America will not stop shopping in the face of this horrible act, he should have at least understood that the dot-com bubble was ushering in a recession, let the recession happen, let that price action feed through the economy. But no, they felt like, oh, we have to prove to the world that we're going to shop ourselves to death. Well, now that they have shopped themselves to death, the mortgages are collapsing and the economy is collapsing.
Let's be fair to Greenspan. It is true that he's an ideologue. He has always said that free market globalization is the best era we have had. He was considered to be the maestro. Why? Because he was fine-tuning monetary policy when Trichet resisted all constraints and pressures to manipulate the interest rates.
And was much criticized for it.
He was criticized, but after some time he's winning the competition between the two central bankers. And this is what history will remember. They will remember that.
Because Trichet in the European Central Bank has its roots in the Bundesbank, and they're inflation hawks. And the U.S. took their eye off the ball. They let the inflation genie out of the bottle, and now you're going to have massive inflationary depression in the United States, and you're going to have an incredible social unrest. And all this lies on the doorstep of Alan Greenspan. He's not the maestro. He's in fact the Dr. Goebbels of monetary policy. He's a propagandist.
He's a three-card maestro.
He's a three-card maestro.
But he was praised for a long time.
Foolishly.
By manipulating...
And fated by world leaders.
No,
because he was giving away cheap money.
He was praised for his monetary policy, adjusting monetary policy to the state of the economy, whereas Europe remained very stable on interest rates. So Trichet was criticized when Greenspan was praised. Another thing, Greenspan was praised for singing the subprime loans.
That's right.
He said banks are made to give loans to those who need it. Generally, banks believe they make loans to the rich. So it was the American dream.
Yeah, sure, but the consumer would take a loan out to buy a house, and they were accepting this risk, whereas the bank, once they made that loan, they don't keep it on their books. They repackage it and sold it to another bank. It's completely asymmetric.
Securitization.
So the banks get a bailout, the homeowners get nothing. That's why there's going to be social unrest in America. There's going to be an uprising in America. They're going to be chasing bankers down the street and burning them at the stake because they destroyed the entire economy. With their cheap money, led by Greenspan.
Securitization was invented by Greenspan in a way. It was invented about 10 years ago. It was a consequence of the Gramm-Leach-Bliley Act, which repelled the Glass-Steagall Act, and it's probably the deep cause that the banks were allowed to go to Wall Street to become speculators, to take speculative positions.
But that's not a reason not to burn them at the stake. You're giving me a reason why we should burn them at the stake. We are in agreement on this. I think we both agree that we should burn Greenspan at the stake, or drive a silver spike through his heart.
But you're American. I am not American. You are an exorcist.
I'm a true American. My roots go back 300 years. I'm not part of this fake American nonsense where you have these people declaring patriotism foolishly when they're not patriots. They're in fact traitors. He's a tyrant. As a true American, I would take him down to the brig as a tyrant and flog him to within an inch of his little monetary life.
But you showed us greenback.
Yes, here it is. You know, it's an endangered species. Soon to be replaced by this.
You know what is written on the greenback. In God we trust.
That's right.
It's not on the euro bills.
That's right. America is a fundamentalist state because they want to try to absolve their sins that they're committing.
Did that faith in God run together with the faith in Greenspan and the markets? Was there a cult of Greenspan?
There was a cult.
Greenspan describes himself as an ideologue. He describes himself as a Republican, libertarian Republican. He was, in his early time, a rational positivist. Hank Paulson, the Treasury Secretary, is a Christian Scientist. So you have a lot of religion.
That's right. They're trying to talk their way out of going to hell. They got this new Republican ticket, McCain-Palin. They're going straight to hell. They're trying to talk their way out of this eventuality, this certainty. As soon as the American people become aware of the fact that they've been sold a trick bag, there are going to be millions on the street homeless because of the arch villain, Alan Greenspan.
So you have found the scapegoat of the 2007 crisis. You found him.
So what about the bankers themselves?
Well, yeah, I wouldn't be as simplistic to say that it's going to just come down to one scapegoat, but certainly he's going to be the poster child for the new American Greater Depression, I think. If you had Herbert Hoover from the last depression, and you had these Hoovervilles, if you remember, little shacks. There's going to be Greenspanvilles. So he will be the name. More than Bush, because Bush is a very minor event. Bush is like a pinprick. He's like a pimple on the butt of the Republican elephant. He means nothing. Greenspan, however, is the architect of this villainy.
History has remembered the sentence by President Hoover, prosperity is around the corner, to justify what happened after the 29 crack. History will remember Greenspan by saying he knew perfectly that every sentence was scrutinized by markets. So he was very careful in what he said. He said everything.
Okay, gentlemen, I'm afraid we're out of time. Will we be seeing another New Deal? And Barack Obama saying all we have to fear is fear itself. Wait until early November to find out. Many thanks to Christian Stoffels and Max Kaiser for coming on to Face Off. Another edition.